set up for someone to take over. And we kept talking about, when is James Harden going to be James Harden? Well, both of those things happened with 5 minutes to go in this game. That's when he scored 10 points in the fourth. Bam Adebayo was back in the game. The Nets shut him down, so they did a great job defensively on Bam in the fourth quarter. But this was all about James Harden. We saw him do it in the first two games. This is the first time we've seen him do it with both Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Outstanding performance in the fourth quarter by James Harden.
Jeff Green, very good defensively on Bam in that fourth quarter. But the story, the fourth quarter scoring, we talked about this in the pregame show. The Nets have the top three players in fourth quarter scoring. Kyrie Irving, who showed out on Saturday. Kevin Durant, who had a rough game tonight, but his teammates picked him up. James Harden scoring just over 8 points per fourth quarter. He scored 10 in this fourth quarter tonight on 4 of 6 shooting.
So remember their last two wins now. Kyrie, 18 points in the fourth quarter on Saturday. James Harden tonight with 10. And it really, the run started with Kevin Durant knocking down this pull-up three. Bam Adebayo comes back, knocks down 2 free throws to make it 81-80. And then finally, James Harden. This is where he looks like MVP James. Dribbling between his legs, getting a rhythm, pulling up, knocking down the shot. Biggest lead for the Nets of the night at that point. Again, this is where he's getting into a rhythm. Gets in the lane, drives to the basket. Bam Adebayo's not in there. Drives right, blows right by Goran Dragic.
And you mentioned it at that point when he had that driving layup after the three, that this was textbook James Harden.
Yeah, and this was a nice little play there, too. Harden, Jeff Green, Joe Harris to Kyrie Irving. Now this to me is the James Harden we've been waiting to see with both Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in the lineup. He was looking for a shot. Look how aggressive he is there. Kicking the ball to Joe Harris, corner three. High percentage shot for Joe Harris, knocks it down. Terrific job by the Nets late in this game on that 15-0 run. But remember, we're going to talk about Harden, how well he did offensively. Let's not forget that Miami went 6 minutes without a field goal. 7:12 to go. Kendrick Nunn knocked down a shot. They did not make another field goal until there were 55 seconds left in the game. So the Nets defensively got it done. Now, Miami was missing open shots, but I also like the job they did on Bam Adebayo. He came back in the game, started to look like he was going to get into a flow, and then Jeff Green, Steve Nash again, using a small lineup, and it worked out.
It's amazing how Kevin Durant could have an off shooting night like he did tonight, but he sparks that 15-0 run, Frank, with that three-pointer.
Yeah, and this is the thing about this Nets team. So Eric Spoelstra knew at some point that one of these guys, one of the three, was going to get going. And Kevin Durant, I thought early on, clearly very good here. The dish to DeAndre Jordan for the dunk. Here they play a little two-man game. Drives to the basket, nobody at the rim, and he gets the dunk. And this might have been one of his better plays of the night. The little pass to a cutting Jeff Green on the back door. A little Magic Johnson. Magic Durant, if you will. And that's a shot he could make all the time from that range.
And it's got to be the shoes, right, Mars? It's got to be the shoes.
And this is the one that you're talking about. This is the pull-up three, which makes it 81. Bam cuts it to 2 by making 2 free throws. Nets go on a 15-0 run after that.
Changed his sneakers at the half, so he comes out in the second. 14 of his 20 coming in the second half. 4 of 10 from the field, 3 of 7 from downtown, 8 rebounds, 13 total. You know, you could say Durant had an, it's funny how you could say Durant had an off night, and he still has 20 points and rips 13 rebounds and has 5 assists.
And I really think what's happened over the last couple of days for the Nets, these were important games to have. Miami is a quality team, but they're depleted right now. No Jimmy Butler here. And you could see tonight that Miami, how competitive they are. And Bam Adebayo was so good. Goran Dragic was terrific in the third quarter. So you knew that they were going to put up a fight. The Nets needed to get this game. These are the kind of wins you have to get. And with 81-80, and we kept waiting for the last 4 games, when is James Harden going to turn into James Harden? And he did it. In the final 4:59, that's when he had those 10 points.
The final 5 minutes of the game is when he had those 10 points. And, Frank, it just seemed like the Nets, both teams really, the Nets and the Heat, I don't want to let the Heat off the hook either. They both look like they were in molasses the entire game. And then the Nets, especially in that last 5 minutes, they just stepped on the accelerator, didn't look back.
Yeah, so Both teams, I thought, were playing really hard. They weren't making shots. It kind of felt like a 90s NBA game, which isn't the worst thing. You know, sometimes
that's a good thing.
Physical, it could be fun. It should be hard to score at times, and it was hard, really hard for both teams. But I think the Nets, you can tell the quality that they have in that lineup. When you have those three players out there, you can keep one of them down, two of them down. When Harden got into it in those final 5 minutes, that changed everything. Because when he knocked down the three, now he knows the floor is going to open up. And when the dribble penetration, he set up shots. James Harden it was Kyrie, like you said, on Saturday in the fourth. Tonight it was Harden.
And when any one of these guys starts feeling it, Frank, it's bad news for the other team, definitely. We're going to step aside here, take our first break. On the post-game show, when we come back, we will hear that's beat the Heat. They sweep them out of Barclays Center Saturday. And tonight, James Harden, he really came to play in the fourth quarter, especially that last 5 minutes, as you pointed out. Kyrie Irving, though, a consistent game for the point guard throughout in this one.
Yeah, he looked frustrated at times with the officiating. A couple of calls that went against him. I think he felt like he should have gotten some calls at the other end. But Kyrie Irving in this game did take 17 shots, finishes with 16 points. What I like what Kyrie Irving did, very aggressive rebounding the ball. Got 8 rebounds and also 4 assists. But I thought for him, you could tell that he was a bit frustrated, but he did other things to help the Brooklyn Nets get a game tonight. And here he is just hanging around Joe Harris with the dribble and the nice little bounce pass. And this told you what Kyrie was into. Doing the little things like that, getting the steal and keeping the ball alive before he steps out of bounds. And thankfully, no fans sitting in the front row now because he lands into about 3 people.
Well, Ian Eagle would have loved that because there would have been spillage. Yes, absolutely. We take a look at the leading scorers now. Bam Adebayo follows up his career-high 41 with 26 tonight, so he kept it going. But the Heat lose. Durant and Harden lead the way for the Nets. They combine for 40. The big three combined for 56.
Bam Adebayo, 4 points in that fourth quarter. So the Nets did a terrific job on him. And then Duncan Robinson, 1 for 10. Duncan Robinson from Williams College, same school as George Steinbrenner.
Wow, look at you, Frank Isola.
Division 3, baby, the NESCAC.
And now look at Steve Nash as he meets the media.
Hey, Steve, I guess let's just focus in on James in particular down the stretch, the way he kind of took over for you offensively to win. You guys were kind of struggling before that.
Yeah, you know, he was great, obviously, and made some big shots and plays. Starting to see a glimpse of the things he can do scoring the ball. You know, like I told the guys after the game, we're a game past the quarter mark. We've played, you know, an incredibly dense schedule. I think we've played more games than anyone in the league. And guys were tired tonight. We couldn't buy a basket. Had a lot of good looks. Tired shooting the ball, but also tired in that we were a little stagnant against the zone after a really good performance against it the other night. So, you know, overall, just the fact that they hung in there and that James stepped up and made some big shots down the stretch.
Brian Lewis with the New York Post. Brian, you're muted.
Brian, you're muted. I don't know if you can hear me.
All right, let's try Alex Schiffer. Oh, there we go.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Brian.
Okay. You had talked earlier about you wanted James to be more aggressive, and you figured this was coming, that it would happen. Was this a matter of game flow, and obviously KD wasn't hitting some of the shots he normally was? Was that game flow, or did he make a conscious decision to get more aggressive? James, I'm saying.
You'd have to ask him. You know, I give James his space offensively. I mean, he's one of the greatest offensive players to ever play the game. So I trust in him figuring out where he's at with his game and how he can affect the game. He does so many things manipulating the defense that he's such a positive for us, even if he's not scoring. But we know how capable a scorer he is. And, you know, he got it going, got a little aggressive, got on a little bit of a roll and made some plays and showed what a tough cover he is. And, you know, that's obviously the place we want him to get, where, you know, he's confident and has freedom to create and is balancing scoring and playmaking.
Alex Schiffer with The Athletic.
Hey, Steve, you mentioned that you guys had a bit of a slow start offensively. Then just as the game went on, you guys continued to improve. Was that anything tactical, or was it simple as shots just starting to go in?
You're kind with a bit of a slow start. But, no, it really wasn't tactical. You know, I think, like I said, the schedule's been, obviously very difficult. Like I said, I think we've played the most games in the league. You could see the mental and physical fatigue a little bit out there tonight. We were a little bit stagnant. The ball stuck a little bit more. Our thoughts were a little bit slower. And you add it all up, we couldn't buy a basket. But I was proud of the guys for hanging in there and just finding a way to give themselves time. And obviously Miami was exhausted too. So they didn't shoot the ball well either. But the most important thing is that our guys found a way to combat all those ways that we could have, found an excuse to lose this game. We kept plugging away. We guarded. Second half, I think we gave up 40 points, 14 in the fourth, and then our offense kind of picked up at the end there. But it was one of those tricky games. And like I keep saying, we're going to see games like this throughout the season. We've seen all sorts of crazy scores, crazy upsets, a lot of people hovering around 500, and that's just the nature of this season, and we have to be prepared to win some of these games when, you're not feeling it.
Greg Logan with News.
Steve, did you change anything defensively in the fourth period? You got 10 straight stops during that 15-0 run. Was that just because Miami was a little undermanned tonight, or did your guys step it up on defense?
I mean, the coaching was outstanding, Greg, I would say, first and foremost. Look, I think you had two tired teams out there, and our guys stepped up to the challenge when they were tired. I thought, Bam got going a little bit for a minute, and then Jeff stepped up and really did a great job making it difficult for him. But the rest of the guys off the ball were diligent. It's difficult with Duncan Robinson flying around out there. We're having to be really crisp on our switches, really crisp on our reads, back cuts, and they do a good job off the ball. So, all the credit goes to the guys, the players, because they have to step up. We kept it very simple defensively, and they did a good job down the stretch.
Bruce Beck with NBC New York.
Steve, you have the top three scorers in the league in the fourth quarter. What is it like to have that option, and do you know who it's going to be on a given night, or is it just kind of play out? That's the way this team is built. We went for it and have three great offensive players. So, on any given night, it could be any one of them, or it could be Joe Harris. It could be someone else. So, those guys also make each other and their teammates better by the attention they draw. So it's about trying to find that collective threat, by the ball moving, by spatial awareness and understanding, and making each other better collectively. So, on certain nights, our guys are so capable of getting hot that it could be any one of them. But the idea is that it's his turn tonight. That emerges, and we welcome it. But we're going to play good basketball. We're going to create good opportunities, and we're going to step up and shoot the ball. And if we create good opportunities more times than not, we'll be in a good position.
Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Hey, Coach, when Sean spoke shortly after the trade, he said that the hole in the roster that trading Jarrett created gives room for somebody else to kind of seize the moment and try to make, I guess, a name for themselves. What have you seen from Reggie in his minutes? Obviously he's a rookie and he's kind of been thrown into the fire, but just what have you seen from him out there? And have you seen any type of maybe chemistry building between him and James out there? It looks like they're trying to figure themselves out there.
Yeah, look, I'm a fan of Reggie's. I think he's, if I'm honest, struggling a little bit out there. And that's to be expected. He's in his first 120 minutes in the NBA, and so whatever it is. So you have to give him time to adapt to the game in short minutes. He's a guy that prospect his whole life, play the whole game, does whatever he wants, and now he's got to fill in a role and adapt to the NBA game. So, but I'm a fan. He can shoot, he can pass, he can dribble. He's a versatile five in the modern game, but he's still a young kid trying to figure out how he fits into a team with stars. So it's something that's going to take time with Reggie, but I believe in him, and I think he's got a bright future.
Malika Andrews with ESPN.
Steve, coming into tonight, James, Kevin, and Kyrie all ranked in the top 5 for minutes in a game since James joined this team. Is that something you're kind of resigned to, that these stars are just going to get a lot of miles on their body, or is it something you're kind of monitoring to try to change throughout the rest of the season?
No, we definitely want to monitor it and avoid, that type of, minutes. It's difficult as we try to sort out our second unit and rotations. Because you get in the game and, if you have a chance to win, you want to win and you want to try to play the guys that are going to get you that win. But I definitely don't want to, overdo it and play them too much. So that's tricky. And they're competitive. And when you take them out, they're not happy. And so we're trying to find that line of we need to win games, but we also need to preserve them for later in the season. And we've had an incredibly difficult stretch where we've played more games than anyone in the league, so we're trying to find that balance where we can get our rotations down, get that newness out of the way, gel, and at the same time not have to play those guys high 30s or 40 minutes a game.
James Harden, along with the others, everyone playing their part. And I think this is going to be an important game just in terms of the growth and learning experience for everyone, because it's a night they struggled mightily from the field. And we hadn't necessarily seen that out of Kevin Durant or out of a variety of players. To think about the fact that they shot 29% from the three-point line, 40% from the field, but still were doing the things and pushing the buttons that they needed to win. And when it was closing time, they made the plays they needed to. And it wasn't just about the offensive side of the ball and making some shots, but I was really impressed too with what they did defensively, how they rotated, how they communicated, how they moved. And I think for those reasons, there is a lot of good to be taken out of this.
How about the rotation itself from Steve Nash, mixing and matching lineups and couple of new looks in there in the second half?
How important, because these are the things that you start to get more comfortable with when you have a better feel for guys. And I think in some ways it's experimentation of what different combinations look like. We saw different lineups and different players on the floor with one another as you start to see who works well within the course of those lineups. But two, when you came down to the end of the game, you had some fresh legs for Kevin Durant, some fresh legs for James Harden, Joe Harris as well, James Harden. So I think for a variety of different areas to look at, this is a good opportunity to see how you're going to work in that rotation and start to get a level of consistency, because that's going to be important as everyone continues to learn their roles.
How about the look ahead now? The Atlanta Hawks, a team that the Nets saw in one of these two-game series earlier this season. They split with Atlanta. Things have leveled off a bit for the Hawks after the hot start. Still a very talented group, and certainly gave the Nets everything that they could handle. That was pre-James Harden.
Yeah, and the start of a road trip for the Nets, so that's another aspect to look at. But despite the way that Atlanta has been playing, we know they have very capable players on the offensive end, the type of threats that Trae Young and John Collins bring to the table, along with many of those young players who are still looking at a level of inconsistency, so they are going to bring their best. And I think that circles back to the fact for the Nets is they've learned no matter who they're playing, no matter what the opponent, no matter how that team may be playing at a certain time, when Brooklyn Nets come to town, they are going to get their best shot, their best effort. And so a good chance for the Nets now, having won these last two games.
18-zip run where they were able to pull away from the Miami Heat. Moments ago, the hero for Brooklyn, James Harden, met up with the media.
Last game, you said that it's almost a luxury that you don't have to shoot to win games anymore. Does that help you at all mentally when you do want to then turn that on, because you know you don't necessarily have to, you have help?
Yeah, but then, it's the other way as well, in the sense of I got to still be aggressive. I still got to look at the rim and shoot my shot and get to the rim and get into the paint and create shots for my teammates. So, I'm figuring it out. It's only been 5 games, and that's what we have a long season for. So once, we all find that balance, our team will be way better. But it's still early. We're just trying to, as we learn, we're trying to, rack up as many wins as we can. So it's a great feeling when you can do both.
Greg Logan with Newsday.
James, you said you've been focused on playmaking, and that's been clear so far. But could you just sense the other two guys, Kevin and Kai, struggling tonight, and did that kind of prompt you to take over the way you did tonight in the fourth?
Yeah, I just wanted to be a little bit more aggressive. Obviously, Kevin and Kai are really, really, really good scorers. Easy shots that they missed tonight that they normally make. So it was fourth quarter. The game was getting close, and we kept going back and forth. We had plenty of opportunities to take the lead, to a higher number, and they just kept climbing back. So we wanted to, finish the fourth quarter off the right way, and I think we did that. Defensively, we had 14 points, and offensively, just wanted to be aggressive with my shot.
Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Hey, James, it looks like you have a good level of communication out there with Reggie Perry. Just curious what you make of his game and how you're trying to kind of obviously he's a rookie, drafted late in the second round. He's kind of thrown into the fire. How are you kind of trying to help him along? That's the perfect phrase, thrown into the fire. But, he's learning. He listens, he learns, he works his butt off, and that's all you can ask for a young guy. So I just try to help him be in positions to be successful, whether it's, screening angles or, areas around the basket to be when our guards drive. Defensively, just a little bit of everything. I don't want to overwhelm him, but I want to just help him out a little bit. So at the end of the day, he still can be himself and go play freely, but, positioning-wise can be more active.
Alex Schiffer with The Athletic.
Hey, James, you touched on this a little bit, but you mentioned the offensive struggles. Was that mainly with their zone, you think, that gave you guys most struggles? Was it other stuff that led to some of that?
Zone. We just had there's going to be nights where we don't all, shoot the ball well. There's going to be very minimum nights where all of us don't shoot the ball well. But that zone, and Cleveland did it. We see Miami do it because teams are going to try to slow us down as much as they can. Try to throw different looks at us. So once we get adjusted and we see the zone more often, we see different defensive schemes more often, then we'll know how to counter them and be more efficient offensively.
Bruce Beck with NBC New York.
James, you made it clear to us from day one that you are here to win. That's the goal. That's the number one priority. Are you enjoying the challenge of trying to figure out what you need to do to help this team win the most?
Yes, that's the best part of it. That's the best part of it is to, I was in a role for 8 years, controlling the ball, dominating the ball. Now it's a different experience for me, but it's still great. It's still basketball at the end of the day, and I'm lucky to be able to do more than just one thing on the basketball court. So, it's fun. It's like I said before, it's a game within the game. You got to pick and choose when to be aggressive, when to get your shooters going, when to let KD and Kyrie get going. And once we get a rhythm and start to feel each other out more. It'll be a lot easier for us, and our team will have a lot more, flowing throughout the course of the game. Right now, we're trying to find it, and we show really good glimpses of it, but it'll be more consistent.
Brian Lewis with the New York Post.
Yeah, and following up on that, was that conversation during the game that you had with KD or Kyrie? Steve said he did not have that conversation with you. Did you have that conversation with them saying, hey, be aggressive, attack, maybe my shot's not here.
No.
You get yours.
No.
No.
You can't, predict what happens throughout the course of the game, So I just, see the game, take it possession by possession, and, use my communication as best as I can.
Take a look now at James Harden. This is before Kyrie and then when Kyrie rejoined the team. So the before Kyrie is his first 2 with Brooklyn, averaged 33 points per game. His last 4, just 18, and his shots are down by 10 per game, Frank. We were waiting for him to be more aggressive in the fourth quarter, those last 5 minutes tonight. But a great question by Bruce Beck of NBC there, bringing up what are the challenges for you here? And you saw how his eyes got all bright. And he was like, it's like reinventing myself again. When you have those players, those elite players like KD and Kyrie, you just have to figure it out.
Yeah, Bruce Beck is the man. Did I tell you that an NBA assistant coach reached out to me and said, this is why you get James Harden? And, it's funny, too. He was also asked about the shots. And you mentioned, maybe he wants to kind of change the way that he plays. Right. Which is fine. I think you have to when you have 2 great players playing with you, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So I think he has to find kind of that happy medium because he was 4 for 6 in the fourth quarter. I still think his shots every game need to be between 14 and 20. It wasn't until the fourth quarter where he really started to look for his shot, and I think he was making quicker decisions in the fourth quarter. It seemed like the early part of the game, a little slower, thinking a little too much. You can tell instinctively, especially that dribble between his legs, he gets himself into a rhythm, Pops that three, that got him going.
He's also where he wants to be now, which is a big point with Harden. Time to check out some news from around the NBA, and we start with history in Orlando. Tonight's game between the Magic and Hornets was the first in league history to feature two women on the same officiating crew working a regular season game together. Natalie Sago and Jenna Schroeder joined Sean Wright on the crew. Sago and Schroeder are 2 of 7 women who are among the 76 officials used by the league so far this season. Elsewhere, tonight's scheduled matchup between the Spurs and Pelicans was postponed in accordance with the league's health and safety protocols. It was the 22nd postponed game in the NBA this season. Health and safety protocols will also cause Clippers superstars Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to miss a game in Atlanta tomorrow, and Pacers star